Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Today, I'm going to be speaking about Reece James. Has Reece James improved under Enzo Maresca? Has he got better? Has he got better in any metrics? Has he got worse? We're going to be going through all of those things. I think there's a number of things to think about when I ask this question. There's obviously footballing terms. Is he better on the pitch? And then we don't usually speak about this with a lot of players, but just the fact that he gets onto the pitch, is that something else that we should use to talk about Enzo Maresca's management of Reece James and his progression this season? So those are the two main things we're going to be talking about: is his footballing ability, but also his ability to actually get on a football pitch as well. Now, obviously, Reece James has been a Chelsea player for many, many years now. Broke into the first team under Frank Lampard. And to be honest with you, never really looked back since then. He's always been a player that's looked to be a leader within our squad, whether that be in terms of his footballing ability, his ability to whip crosses in from the right-hand side, put balls on a plate for players in the box, and also contribute with goals as well. A goal-scoring wing-back is what Reece James has generally been for Chelsea since he's come. And this isn't something new for Chelsea. We've always had wing-backs that have been able to score goals and create. Marcos Alonso as well, another popular player. I remember when Ben Chilwell was fit, he used to contribute. But I think we can all agree in terms of all of those players that I outlined, I'm sure I've missed one or two out. Reece James at his best was the best. And some would even still say is the best. But this is the issue, isn't it, that we've had with Reece James over the past number of years, is getting him to the stage where he can even find his way onto a football pitch. And this has been a problem over the past number of seasons. Now, I personally think that there are instances where you could argue that Reece James has been mismanaged. He should have been rested in certain games, and he ended up getting played. And that obviously doesn't help any player's recovery, and that can happen where players come back too early and then they get injured again. I think that there's certainly an argument for that in certain cases. But I think Reece James, we can all agree, he's just an injury-prone player, isn't he? He's just a player that's constantly injured. But not to the same extent of other players where they get injured and they're never able to bounce back. This is why we're having the debate in the first place, right? Because although Reece James has been injured for large proportions of this season, he's been available for a number of games as well. And he has been contributing in that sense. I mean, if we look at what Reece James has actually offered this team over the course of this season, this is what we're looking at in terms of the progressions since he's been a player for us. 24 Premier League matches, 32, 26, and then the number has trickled down over the past 2 years prior, right? 16 games and then 10 games last season under Poch. I do want to just say, though, those 10 games that he did play, especially Nottingham Forest away when he was fantastic when he came on the pitch. We won that game 3-2. I think that we saw Reece James just absolutely smashing it in a number of those games. And I think that even coming back from an injury, we saw a guy on fire, playing in his natural position, bombing down the right-hand side, able to contribute up the far end of the pitch, while also being able to fulfill his defensive duties. But this is the thing, though. There's only 10 games. Now, this season, we've got one game left, obviously. I think he'll probably play against Nottingham Forest. But as it stands, he's played 18 games in the Premier League, which is more than last year, and it's more than the year before as well. Prior to that, he was never a player who played every single week because he still had little injuries. But he wasn't out for the whole season. But you can see that his minutes generally have got smaller, but it's been a nice bounce back Even though he's played more games, though, in the Premier League this season than he did in the 22-23 season, though he's not played as many minutes. So a number of appearances from the bench, all starting games, and then coming off to try and take care of the player, which obviously I have no issue with, because you want to protect your players, right? This is what we're looking at in terms of Reece James over the course of this season. 18 games in the Prem. We've also had 6 games in the Conference League, and 1 game in the FA Cup, played 45 minutes there. So 25 appearances in total for GA, 1,383 minutes. And this is what we're looking at in terms of the games that he's been available for or not available for, and how much he's played. Conference League, relatively mixed. Didn't play for the first few, but as we've progressed within the competition, he's obviously been a key member of our squad. Wasn't involved in the qualifiers in the Premier League. He was obviously suspended from last season. He got a red card at Brighton, if I'm not wrong, last season, and that's why he was not available. He then had another hamstring injury, and for the first 20 game weeks, not really involved. But since then, we have seen a player that, generally speaking, has been available most weeks. And look, he's not playing 90 minutes every week, but he's clearly been an asset to Enzo Maresca. He's clearly been a player that Maresca wants to include within the squad. And for me, this is something that Maresca, if I'll give him credit for anything in terms of the way he's managed Reece James, I'll give him credit for the fact that he's been able to get Reece James involved in games consistently. And it's like anything, right? If you're not able to get the best out of Reece James playing in his natural position, or his best position, you could call it that, as a right wing back or a right back, then you've got to find a way to give him the right amount of minutes, but also put him in a system where he is able to contribute something to this team and still be effective. Okay. And that's where this sort of inverted right back role has come in. There are a couple of games where he's filled in at left back. He's also played as a midfielder a couple of times. He did play as a midfielder before in his career, but not at Chelsea. That was at Wigan in the Championship, but he was their player of the season when he was doing that. So it's not like he was struggling at that level, but obviously this is a little bit different playing at Chelsea. So when we look at what Enzo Maresca has done, we can all agree that he has managed Reece James's minutes well in terms of keeping the player fit. Now, there are a number of games where this is certainly an argument. Reece James probably should have started, or would have been a better option to start, and he didn't start. Whether that was for tactical reasons or to just take care of Reece James, I don't know. So that's not really the debate today. I leave that up to you to think about. This is all about whether Reece James has progressed. So when we look at these stats as well, we've already established that in terms of his minutes in the Premier League, he is better than he was last season. He's not better than he was in the 22-23 season, but he has played in more games. He's been available for more games. And that's an important thing to understand. Even if Reece James is able to help for 45 minutes, it's like Lavia, right? If Lavia wasn't available against Nottingham Forest, I think we'd be a lot more nervous than we are now. We can accept that Lavia will play 45 minutes and just be grateful that actually we'll have 45 minutes where we'll play better as a team. So availability is the best ability as far as I'm concerned. And that's the number one thing here. But on a separate note, I will say this, which is that I do think in terms of what we're seeing from Reece James this season, he is nowhere near his best. He is not the world-class player that we saw under Thomas Tuchel. He's just not there. And maybe that's because of all of the injuries he's had throughout his career. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that he's inverting now and he's not actually in a position where he can bomb on that right-hand side and whip crosses in. Although I will say that ball he put in against Man United for Cucurella, that was a fantastic cross. But we haven't seen enough of that. And I think that when he's inverting all the time, I do think that you limit his ability to be able to do it. If you're pinning opponents back and you've got James in those positions where you can get further up the pitch, fair enough. But That's just something, for me, that's personal preference. I don't think that you get the best out of Reece James. If we're talking about one game, you say one game, I want Reece James, you play the best football that you can possibly play in this Chelsea team, where do you play him? You do not play him as an inverted right back. I'm sorry. You just don't do it. You play him as a right wing back. That's where he plays his best football. But if you're talking about getting the best out of Reece James over the course of a season and saying, well, yes, he might play better in one game as a right wing back, but he won't last 38 over the course of a Premier League campaign. So I've got to play him in a way that's sustainable. Then maybe there is an argument to invert him and put him into that midfield at times, because he's not bombing up and down. And we have a lot of the ball. And it's just a little bit more comfortable, physically speaking. There's no denying that Reece James also has great passing quality. He's able to shoot. He has a lot of the qualities that you want. He's obviously defensively sound. He can win his aerial duels. I don't like Reece James in the midfield as much as I would want to see Caicedo or Lavia or any of these guys. But I can appreciate that compared to a player like Gusto, for example, we've tried inverting. It is better. It's definitely a lot better than that. And you get a lot more experience with James than you would with Josh Achimpong. So I think the overriding feeling for me is that Reece James has not improved his footballing ability under Enzo Maresca. I would argue that that has regressed. But if you were to give credit for anything, it's that he has been more available now than I can remember in a number of years. And that is a great feeling, knowing that the final 2 games of the season, we're going into those games with our club captain available, hopefully being able to contribute in both matches. And if this is the long-term solution to see our best player performing, even if it's not at his absolute best level, we all know that Reece James is a world-class right back. He's a world-class right back. And he can produce 9 and 10 out of 10 performances on that side. If he produces a 7 out of 10, inverting, sometimes an 8 out of 10, but I get to see that every week as opposed to 10 games a season like we did last year, then I can understand it. I can understand it. But that doesn't mean I like it, but I appreciate why Maresca is doing that with Reece James. So that's my opinion on it, guys. That's my opinion. I think that ultimately we can't look at Reece James and say that he's been world-class this season. He hasn't. We know he's been better. But what we can see is a clear improvement on the physical side in terms of the fact that he's available. He's not doing as much physically as he was during matches, but he's still able to cause problems for teams and contribute. And if that's not always in the Premier League, we've seen already he is producing in the Conference League as well. I actually think in the midfield, Reece James has been pretty decent in the Conference League, but that is not the same when you play Copenhagen in your garden as it is playing against Arsenal and Liverpool and all these guys. So I don't think that he should ever be starting in the midfield in Premier League games unless you're playing Ipswich or Leicester, for example. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, I will say this, which is that I'm very happy he can stay fit, but I don't think that we've seen Reece James at his best. It would be interesting to see how he develops next season playing in a similar system. He would have already had a season under his belt to get to grips with it, and now hopefully he can kick on and stay fit as well. So that's my opinion on that, guys. Let me know if you think that Maresca's been a good manager for Reece James, if you think Reece James has progressed or regressed. I think that we can probably agree that his footballing ability hasn't really got better, but the fact that he's available in the first place is just pleasant, really. So all the best, guys. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will catch up very, very soon.